So this is our weekly live, which sometimes happens on Wednesdays around this time and sometimes happens on Thursdays around this time. Kind of depends on my family. I don't usually announce it too often ahead of time. It's usually just spur of the moment and last minute. One day perhaps I'll be on a schedule and maybe I won't. So bear with me while, life happens. You won't always know, and I apologize for that. But spontaneity, I guess, has its good points too. So here we are. I have a little piece of a scrap paper. I'm going to paint on the back side. I had already painted something on the other side. There it is, just a simple, fun little landscape. So seascape, whatever that was. Maybe I'll do the same here. I'm going to wet my paper, and I think we'll just do something quick. So let's see what colors we feel like playing with here. I think I would like to start my regular way, perhaps a little bit of ochre and a little bit of raw sienna. I have my camera right in front of my work today, so I'm having to look around my art or my paper, so that can be kind of awkward. If you've filmed yourself before, and especially if you've done a live, you know how awkward that can be. Okay, so we've got some yellow happening, some ochre, whatever your favorite yellow is, a warm yellow, not so lemony, maybe a little bit of lemon. You can take a little bit of lemon. I like to sometimes do that and put it right here somewhere in the middle to keep that area light, but you don't always have to. It just kind of depends on what you like. And then let's take a little bit of I think this is like a permanent yellowy orange. It's been in my palette since 2018, so I'm not 100% sure what it is, quite honestly. I'm just going to bring it in like I would maybe with a burnt sienna, but I'm going to... Hi, Penny! I was wondering where you've been. I think I missed you last week, too. Was it last week that you were not around? Or was it the week before? It's kind of blending together. Sometimes it does that to me. Life just blends. I'm like, I don't know. It was one of those days. I know it was. I hope you're well. I hope things are well. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, my colors all mixed around. I have my color palette. I always have let me show you real quick. I have a map of all my paints, and I put them on little magnets. So when I want to rearrange my palette, my swatches can be arranged too. And it's super handy if you haven't done this. It doesn't look as pretty as, say, this one maybe, where they're all permanently done, but I feel like this works well for me because I am constantly moving my swatches around. Things get moved, I take things out, you know how that works. So I don't know what color I just put on my brush, so I'm gonna wash my brush off and try again. I'm gonna grab, I think, maybe a magenta, and I'm gonna mix that with something a little softer, maybe a wild pink, this is called. Let's see. Let's see. So I got hiccups. One hiccup, hopefully. My kids make fun of me because I often will get one hiccup, and that's it. Okay, two. All right, I'm gonna grab some ochre and maybe drop that in there. I've been busy and I know I was wondering how you were with that. I didn't want to call you out necessarily, but I was wondering how you recovered and how you're doing and all that. I feel like, and not that it's inevitable for most of us, but I feel like anybody that's had kind of questionable eyes in their life, which is me, I feel like that's probably something that's in my future, and I'm not exactly, Hello. Oh, thank you. Just getting started. So yeah, I'm already, the dental stuff is scaring me, to be honest, Penny. Dental stuff really freaks me out. I've had a few times where they don't quite numb me enough, and now I go in with a warning. Get pretty anxious, during these appointments. And so, but then they go on the air of numbing you up extra, and then you end up chewing a hole in your cheek because you're so numb. It's like a double-edged sword no matter what you do, right? Nobody wants to feel the dental work, but you also don't want to be numb and can't eat for the rest of the day. Hello. So I'm getting a light base of colors, and I'm just kind of not guessing, but I'm just playing with colors. I have no idea really what kind of colors I want to get down. I am just kind of making it up as I go and seeing what sounds good in the moment, literally the moment of where I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm just using a kind of a muted spring green here. Its actual name is called Poo. Yep, like crap, like poo, like, you know, whatever your word for that is. That's what it's called, Poo. I think she named it after, I think she said a baby's diaper. So I guess that's what the green made her think. Like, it kind of like more like mashed peas. I guess if you had to call it something. Did you ever eat mashed peas? I know that's not a States thing so much. I think it's more of a, is it British that eat the mashed peas? I don't know. I never really ate mashed peas. So mashed peas were not my thing. I do like fresh peas though, and I love peas from the garden. All right, grabbing a little bit of a darker green and just sort of putting it in there. I'm gonna grab a color called Tree Bark. It's a handmade paint color, and I'm just going to put a little bit in there as suggestions of foliage and trees and things happening. And they don't have to be exact. They can just be suggestive, if I could speak the word I'm trying. That would be handy. Suggestive. There we go. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Gave up caffeine years ago. Maybe I need to incorporate it back into my life. Can you do black? I suppose if I wanted to, I could. I don't really come out with a plan in my head. I just do whatever I feel. So if I were feeling in a dark mood, I suppose I could. But if it's calling to you, I say that's what you should do, right? Whatever calls to you. And that's how I feel for art. It has to call to you to do it. Like when people ask me to do commissions. Nope. I do what I want because that's whose art is for me. And so I think art should be for the person doing it, not for others. But that's for me. But I know a lot of people do art for other people, and it works out for them. It doesn't work for me. I can't paint on command. It's hard enough to do these where you're like painting in front of people, wondering what the heck you're going to paint and why you're even doing it and what your purpose of doing it is. My purpose here is just to encourage people that maybe don't think they have talent or stuff or even kind of any kind of skill. You don't need it. You can just paint because it's enjoyable, because it's kind of a therapy, because you like pretty colors or you don't like pretty colors, and you can paint whatever color you like. So that is what art does for me. And let's see. Any dental procedure or surgery is very stressful if done while you're awake, but they gave me something that made me feel so happy. I left everybody for about 3 hours. I love that, Penny. I've never had anything like that. And you remember it, like you felt like somewhat in control, like yourself-ish. Oh, that's funny. I always, this is kind of weird, but I always wished that I could. Okay, so I love the feeling of being tipsy. I don't like anything after that point, right? I love just having that first drink where you feel great. I don't drink anymore, really. Maybe occasionally, like once every few years. But anyway, when I was younger, but I would get horrible hangovers. So I always wished that I could just have something that would just be like that. And everybody said, well, smoke marijuana. It didn't work for me. Just didn't, it gave the opposite for me. So anyway, I never found that thing. So anyway, it just sounds like you found that thing. I wish I had that thing, even if for 3 hours. Oh, that's awesome. All right, joking aside, let's see. I made a mess. So if you add paint at the wrong time and you adding paint with more water than your paper is ready for, this will happen. And some people call it cauliflower bloom. Some people call it a mess, mistake, whatever. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to dry it, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so it's dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat brush and dip it in water, and I'm going to re-wet the sky. And by re-wetting the sky, I would like to have some legally every yes, right? I wonder what long-term effect it has every day. Okay, so I just kind of wet my brush and kind of just got rid of that. And you can do that. You can just sweep it across a few times, and sometimes it goes away really easily, and sometimes it takes a little bit of scrubbing. That one took a little bit of scrubbing, and I think that just depends on if you're using a more staining style paint or not. And some paints leave more paint behind, and some paints don't. So, and that's all on your paint labels. It will all be on there. Okay, and so I added more water again. So we're just gonna play here a little bit, and maybe we'll add some yellow back into the sky, just kind of giving it texture. I don't often go for those super smooth gradient skies. Sometimes I do, but really my love of skies is texture and is a little bit of grit, so to speak. I once recently had somebody ask me, why are your pictures so grainy? And yes, I use that voice because you could tell it was like they were annoyed. They're like, oh, your work's pretty, but why are they so grainy? Oh, but it's pretty, but really, why is it so grainy? They said it twice. I'm like, okay, were you ever around for the day where pictures, black and whites, remember, we used to like make them in the style of grain, right? We used to have grain to our photography. And that would just mean, you know, texture and grit would be left behind, and you could have sort of a texture to your photograph. It was an art style, and I don't know what it's called in watercolor. Partially granulation, I don't know. But anyway, I like the texture. I like that. And so I guess I took slight offense clearly by my by my way I'm talking about it now. But yeah. Yeah, I use the voice and everything. Maybe I'm being a little juvenile about it. Sorry for those who are like, oh geez, here she goes. Let's see, what colors did I use for that green? I used Masha's handmade paints, and I used a little bit of dark green, forest green, and I used tree bark. Okay, so then what I can do is maybe add a few little detailed if I want those, which I'm not sure I do. So I'm gonna get rid of that. I didn't like that at all. Could add some trees in here if we wanted, but things are still wet, so I'm going to make sure that I just make this make sense instead of what I did, because I kind of made it make not sense now. You can bring colors darker in the front, and so that's what I'm doing here. Just going to make sure these colors are a little bit darker. So, you know, making those colors darker adds a little more depth to your work. And what I'm doing is fidgeting with stuff, so I don't recommend that. Once you get stuff sort of how you like, just kind of leave it alone. Don't keep messing with it. I often do, and that is often something I don't like about sometimes my style is I just keep messing with it, right? And yeah, you don't always need to do that. So now I have to mess with this one right here because it's closer to, right? So it needs a little messing with. Okay. Yeah, not in love, but that's okay. I'm gonna soften up these edges a little bit, and I'm just using a wet brush to soften those edges up. I'm gonna dry real quickly. Okay, that's dry enough. I like to use a heat tool for that. It speeds up the process. Otherwise, we'd wait in 5 minutes, or I would just have to come back to that piece and work on something else. So if you don't have a heat tool, a hairdryer works okay-ish. I've actually never used one. I just know people that have used them. I just think it would blow too much, and I don't really like that. So I'm going to add some trees. I make my straight line, and I take my brush, and I just roughly go back and forth on each side, pulling out the paint and not trying to do anything specific, just trying to be, I'm gonna go right down into this bush that I didn't really like anyway. Stick our tree right in it-ish. Grab some more paint. Do another one, very loose. There's lots of tree tutorials out there if you need help making trees. So many, a ton. There was not one single one that worked for me, and I did a lot of them. I've painted thousands of trees now. You just have to put in the, or I just had to put in the practice, and I assume that would work for other people as well. The practice is what worked finally for me, but it did take a really long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round brush here, round size 4, and I'm just going to make sure that I get some water down here and loosen things up. It's a balance of getting your brush wet enough to make that paint move, but not lift up your paint, right? Because paint lifts. When you put paint down, a lot of paint isn't as staining, which means it won't stay. You can lift it and you can lift that color back off that paper. So let's do another little set of trees. We'll stick them maybe, I don't know, let's stick one right here. We'll do it smaller, and I'll show you what I mean by that lifting thing here. This is one way to lift. What I'm going to do, I'll just do one more quick one right here. Oh, I like that spot. I shouldn't have colored that up. I love how the green and the orange mixed. So you do want to be careful about where you mix. All right, what I'm going to do is take my wet brush again. I'm going to see how it lifted up. It lifted that paint. Don't love that part. That means my brush was too wet. So now I got to add some paint back in and kind of work with it. Or just pretend that was meant to happen and clear out the rest of it and make it feel like it was supposed to be there. So what I meant was lifting also, you can also just dab the top of your trees. I made them a little bit lighter than these ones so they get pushed back a little farther. I'm not happy about that lifted area that happened down here. So what you can do is take some of your color and maybe distract. And by doing that, you can add little grasses, maybe. You can add some grasses down here in front. And just sort of, see, you don't like that, but that's okay. Don't like that at all. And again, that's okay. You can add some grasses over on this side. You don't want to just add the stuff to one area because then it ends up looking a little forced, you know? So I do like to add it to different areas. And then I just like to take my brush and sort of blend out those bottom areas. This isn't my favorite, but that's okay. Nothing is ever perfect, nor does it have to be. This is all practice. I don't sell art. I don't do that kind of thing. So it's all just fun practice. And it doesn't have to be. So we did keep this center really light, which I really, really appreciate. I'm gonna make sure my paint's dry. It's not completely dry, even though, yes, we dried it. I'm gonna dry it one more time. My apologies, I didn't mute you. Let me mute you for you don't have to listen to that obnoxious noise. Okay, that's pretty dry. Now let's go ahead and add a few things. First thing I want to add, sorry for the clinking over here. I work in a small space, so something is inevitably flinging off the desk at any given moment. And that was just a brush making its way as I move something else out of the way, as I have my planner stacked on, I don't know, a book, a pack of thank you cards, I've got 3 sketchbooks balanced. Something's gonna topple. Oh, and I like a neat space, so it is driving me a little crazy. It's on our kitchen table, and so I like to be, oh, let me not talk while I do this. I like to be in our space. Okay, sorry. It's hard to breathe and do that at the same time. I don't know why. I think because it makes me shake or something. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my shimmers and I'm gonna add some shimmer. Cover up that yuck I did down here, but that's okay. This is just supposed to be quick, not too much overthinking. Get it on your paper. Don't worry about things. Don't overthink it. If you don't like it, now you know for next time you don't like what happened there, right? And you can get rid of it. You could even crop this, you know, if you wanted to. It's not really important. It's just paper. And guess what? We have a lot more paper. And so don't let it stop yourself, even though we all get caught up in the kind of thing, right? I know I do anyway. All right, I'm just gonna use some simple gold here. Gold shimmer. Gold shimmer is one of my favorites. Okay, what we're gonna do is cover our area so we don't get it everywhere. And then we're just going to splatter it. And that kind of adds some fun. It also adds texture, and it kind of works as maybe wildflowers, right? It kind of, there's just something in the foreground. We don't have to know what it is. We don't have to see it exact. We just know that there's something down there. And that's it. All right, let's clear this out before something else topples over. Let's take the tape off. And so after this, I will see you. If you didn't say hi, I don't know you're here. If you're here, say hi, because unlike Instagram, who tells me who's here, YouTube does not tell you who is here at your live. So if you're wondering why I didn't say hi to you, that would be why. So unless you say hello, then I will never know. Which if you like that, that could be your thing too. You could be incognito. Like a little spy cam, if you want it to be. Totally up to you. That's okay if you want to be. Spy cams are fine. I've got nothing to hide. At least nothing I'll show you. All right, some fun colors on there, regardless of composition, liking the composition or not liking the composition. I like some of the colors going on. So that's all I have for you this week. I will see you next week. And sorry for the crookedness, which is going to drive me absolutely crazy. It's hard to get it non-crooked here on YouTube. All right, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next week. Bye.